I cried for 1.5 hours. Not that I was sad, not that I was depressed, not that I was upset about anything. I just felt so beautiful. I just released and I just cried and I cried and I cried. And then as soon as I came out, I met a friend of mine. He said, "Shit, what happened to you?" I got really scared. I said, "What happened to me?" He said, "Look at your face, your skin is glowing." And that's the day I realized that when you cry, you detoxify your system. You detoxify your pain. You take it out, you release it, and you liberate yourself. And I said, why would I not want to do this more and more and more and more?
Welcome back to another episode of Success Decoded, where we decode the many layers of success that go far beyond fame and fortune. My guest today is someone who truly embodies grace in growth. From being one of India's beloved actors to becoming a globally celebrated Kundalini yoga teacher and wellness mentor, BJ Anand is a living reminder that success isn't about reaching the top, but about finding peace when you get there. Through his platform, Anahata Retreats, he's been guiding thousands across continents to reconnect with themselves through yoga, Ayurveda, and conscious living. Today, we'll decode not just his journey, but the deeper truths about elegance, self-awareness, and the neuroscience of peace. Welcome, Vijay, to Success Decoded.
My pleasure. Thank you very much, Taylor.
Finally, we get this to work, right? We've been
Yeah.
trying for so long. So welcome. We're so happy you're here. Okay, so you've spoken so often about simplicity, which I think if I can just hear more about simplicity, I'm so happy to hear about it because I think it is so fundamental to this concept of enlightenment because it's not really complicated, but we make as human beings things so complicated. So tell me a little bit about what that means, simplicity, how enlightenment is all about simplicity.
When you are even halfway there towards your path and your journey on enlightenment, it just automatically sets in that the lack of simplicity, it complicates your life so much. And being simple and having that vow of living a simple life, at least in your head, because I'm an art dealer. If I start living, if I start living simply and with very basic things, nobody will buy millions of dollars worth of art from me. So I get it. But having that bhav, in India we have a word called bhav, having that simplicity inside your core and living that life, which in India, again, there's a beautiful word called vairagya. Vairagya means not really needing the comfort, the luxuries, the Bentleys, and all of those things in life. Being able to be content and happy at the same time without any of those accoutrements, you know. And when you have that in your heart, there's no way that anything that life throws at you will cause you grief, sorrow, pain, or unhappiness. When you at core, when you become simple and you don't crave for all of those things, now having it is fine. Enjoying it is also fine. But craving for it, not being simple at your core, that's a problem.
So positively detaching from those things, not giving them any kind of value over your inner peace, right? Nothing over your inner peace. So it's really the inner work. Okay, so let me ask you, because I always ask all of my guests this. If you had to choose one elegant virtue or belief, so I'll tell you what that is a little bit. Like, for example, truth, honesty, simplicity, for example, in this case, something that you believe in that defines or elevates a person's life, what would that be?
Gratitude. So the thing is, I have to extrapolate on that a little bit. My whole life, I'm 55 years old now. Up to the age of 52, I believed that love was like the highest emotion and the highest truth, the highest everything. I lived my life based on the core. That's why my company is called Anahata, which is the heart chakra. And then at the age of 52, it was almost like an epiphany. It just hit me, and I realized that the most beautiful emotion and the most healing emotion in the world is gratitude. So when you understand like that every moment of yours is is a life in gratitude, when you're so grateful for everything that you have, for everything around you, the clothes you wear, the food you eat, the people around you, and you're constantly in that state of gratitude, it's a healing process. It heals you.
Yeah, fantastic. That's a one of those success decoded part is looking at gratitude, and maybe everybody out there that's thinking that gratitude, you become grateful when things you actually achieve them or have them, but actually just be grateful for the things that you have now, not with the things that you want to have or the things that you don't have, but actually what exists right from right now, because that's how you're going to get to, for example, where BJ is today. He got there because of that. So that's one of the success decodes for everybody out there. We're decoding success. This is how it is. Okay, so you've also talked about the difference between chasing and simply being, which I think is wonderful as well, because this is a huge concept when it comes to that concept of flow. But from your experience, how can you consciously shift from being in a doing mode to being in a being mode?
So basically, the way success works is that if you chase it like a dog running behind a car just to, pee on it, if you just chasing something, I believe it never happens. So one thing that works like magic is manifestation. So you manifest a reality. That's what I did in my childhood when I had nothing. I didn't even have food to eat. We used to go hungry as children. We couldn't afford a loaf of bread in the house. But at that time also, I manifested a reality for myself. The kind of house I would have, the number of cars I would have, the kind of money I would have, and the wealth I would have, the opulence, the comfort. I manifested.
Yes.
And then instead of chasing it, I surrendered to the process, believing that it would happen, knowing it would happen,
Yes.
just surrendering to the process. And surrender is really powerful philosophy.
Mhm.
If you understand that it's not a weak surrender to, okay, let life take me to whatever nonsense it wants. No, no, no. It's surrender with power. You
Yeah.
believe that reality is going to happen. I just surrendering to the process.
Yes.
That's all I'm doing.
It's a choice. It's an active choice. And choice is wonderful for human beings in our psychology. We like choice, especially when we feel like we can make a choice. So it's like in Buddhism, we say it's non-resistance, right? So the concept of non-resistance. So it's exactly, it's the same thing. No matter what we call it, the name, it's allowing to, it's making the choice to non-resist. It's letting go. And they're so powerful. It is incredibly powerful. It's life-changing, actually.
The
So
last 12 years that I've been teaching, anytime I've had a class where there are these Buddhists, and also the people from that Namyo Renge Kyo, anytime I've had it, they've all come up to me and said, whatever you just said is exactly what is written in the book on Buddhism. But it's actually, it's not that I've read Buddhism or I'm exposed to any of that at all, ever. I've never read any book on Buddhism except one which was like a really, like literally like a 10 pages book on the Dhammapada. That was all I read when I was like 14 years old. And that's another story altogether. But I see what else is possible because I've tried all permutations and combinations. The concept of Buddhism, which is so similar to whatever I have to say from my own experiences, is just exactly the same. It's just perfectly aligned.
yes, absolutely. It's again towards enlightenment, as we've said. Okay, so you began your journey as an actor. So I would love to hear a little bit because just for my sake, please. So everybody out there that already knows, I'm sorry about this, and all the Indian people that are out there and know Bollywood and everything, I'm an outsider to this one. So tell me a little bit about the roles that you've played thus far. What were your favorite two roles that you played?
Oh, it's really very interesting because up to the time I became a Kundalini Yoga teacher and did my course, up to that point, I only got casted for angry roles. It was amazing. It was like anybody who wanted to cast somebody in a violent character or an angry character, including in the mythology, if you've heard of Ramayana. In Ramayana is Ram, who's Ramayana, and there's Lakshman, his brother, and there's Sita and Hanuman. Now, Lakshman was the angry guy. And when they were casting for Ramayana, Ravi Chopra, a very famous director in India, he walked into the room. Before he even sat down, he said, put Vijay's name down for Lakshman. And everybody, there were 25 people in the room, they were shocked. He said, it's Ramayana. The hero is Rama. Why don't you cast him first? And then we'll see. And in any case, we have like 100 options for Lakshman. At least let us show you the options. He said, shut up. You'll never meet a more angry human being than Vijay in your life. Put his name down first. I got casted for Ravi Chopra's Ramayana before Ram. That's how angry I was. And then I did Kundalini Yoga. I became a teacher. I started teaching, and then I got invited to for a meeting. And then the director met me and he said, "Please, you have to be the Janak of my show," which is again Ramayana. It's from Sita's point of view. And Janak is Sita's father. Now, Janak was a saint. He was a king who was a saint. That's why he was called Raj Rishi. And then he called up Star, the channel, and he said, I haven't found an actor to play Janak. I found Janak himself. And then I got Brahma in Adipurush, and I've just been getting casted. I just recently played Rishi Vyas. And it's not that I'm looking for these roles. It's just that these roles, they find themselves to me, and that I'm getting casted for all these kind of roles. So this is what, in fact, also for your viewers, this is the impact Kundalini Yoga has had on my life.
Yes, yeah, amazing. It really shifted you from anger to peace, right? So which is wonderful. Tell me a little bit before we even get into. I would like to actually take a side step here with the concept of anger, because anger, I think I would love to hear from you because you've talked about navigating. Clearly, you navigated that anger, and you did it through your yoga practice. But I would love to hear what you think. Like, how would you define what anger was for you? Because anger is a really difficult emotion for many people because, one, it has a stigma. So we're not supposed to be angry. It's not a good feeling, especially as women. We're not supposed to be angry. We're not supposed to be showing it, saying it, feeling it, or whatever it is for whatever reason. And that's like cross-cultural. Anger is not a good emotion. Or anger is a blanket emotion, right? So it's anger covers a lot of other things like resentment, frustration, feeling not seen, feeling not respected, things of that nature. And it goes into like anger, and anger kind of covers it. So for you, how would you have described your anger, and how did you break free from it?
Methodology that I would always present to anybody who wants to understand how to break free from anger is to first make them understand that there are different reasons for anger. Now, one very obvious reason, which is, I can share with you, is obviously alcohol. When you have what we call in India tamas, when there is that tamas, which is negativity inside your system because of the alcohol, automatically this gives rise to anger. Now, something like spicy food, for example. Now, in India, we have a city called Kolhapur. The food is so spicy there that literally your mouth goes on fire. Now, you go to somebody and say, hello, how are you? They'll slap you. There's so much anger inside. Now, then the third reason is your childhood, the trauma, PTSD, childhood abuse, sexual abuse, violence, being bullied at school.
Yes.
In my case, it was a lot of that. I was bullied so much in school, I cannot even tell you. And my way of dealing with that was to have that attitude of being a live wire. The people would actually get scared to approach me. Literally, like in my college days, and even later, for a long time, people would really vary of approaching me because I was so bullied that I had to create this aura of somebody unapproachable, and that anger was like a tinderbox. I was a tinderbox.
Yes.
And then again, the childhood trauma of being a part of a broken family, for example, and having the experiences that I had as a child, which were not really pleasant, it created a lot of resentment and anger and frustration inside me. Um, because when you're helpless, your only reaction to get back at the world is to hit back at them. It's like there was this little puppy in my area this is about 20 years ago, and I went to save it. It was about to die because it was in this um, gutter, and I just stopped my car. I got out and I went to save it, but it thought I was trying to attack it. It bit me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who's coming at you. You always view people with that suspicion, that resentment that the world is being so unkind to you that you have to protect yourself. It's a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah, of course. It's also becomes your filter.
But it's something that can disintegrate you. It can finish you off. I'm not even going to the cortisol and the whole chemical, or the anger and the violence inside. But having said all of this, I must tell you one more thing. And I always tell people, if you have it inside, don't suppress it. Because then it gets converted into cancer, into disease,
Yes.
into cholesterol, into heart problems, into all kinds of health issues and psychological issues. If you are angry, shout.
Yeah. Release it.
Scream, release it. Because if you don't, it will incinerate you. It'll burn you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, this is exactly like what you said. It's you use it as a self-defense mechanism to self-preservation, and particularly in your case, to keep everyone away. And then it becomes your filter. That's how you're going to see everything, no matter if it is that way or not. It's our perception. But it is absolutely, when you, with anger, it's always so many different things. And it's also can eat you alive at the same time, especially if you suppress it. It will definitely do that. So let it out, everyone. This is the thing. Okay, so I would love to just taking now a step back to the acting. What was that chapter of your life like? I know you're doing it now continuously, but before yoga, let's say pre yoga, post yoga. What was that part of your life like?
So I have to admit, I was never enamored by the glamour. It never gave me a kick to sign autographs or be mobbed by 200 people. Go walk into a nightclub and say, "Welcome, Vijay Anand." It just, in fact, people then always, and even now, they ask me, "How come you're so humble?" Because for me, it never went into my head ever, and that kind of glamour, that kind of adulation. Because like I said, my the songs, Yaro Na Jane Mujhe Kya Ho Gaya and Subah Subah Jab Khidki Khole, till today, even today, they somebody put a post on Instagram, for example, that from the 70s or what from the 80s, they put that it has a million views. It's so popular, even and you'll see the comments. Oh, those days! Oh, those wonderful that wonderful song, and I still remember this guy. But for me, it was never part of something which made my head spin and like, oh wow, it was just a job for me. And because I was illiterate, I never had money to educate myself. I had no, it's a different matter now that I give lectures to Harvard graduates and Yale graduates today. But at that time, not having the money to educate myself, acting was the only profession I could get into without that education. And so I did. I was luckily I was good looking enough to become a model. I started modeling. I did about 400 ads, and then it was a natural progression for a model to then become an actor, and that was that phase of my life. I had good memories of it. It was a different life. It was a different phase of my life. I appreciate what I learned and all the wonderful people I met, but I'm happier now.
And the change that you made, and I mean, the question stated here is that you left it, but from what you just said, it wasn't ever you, right? So I guess, how did you find your calling that that transitioned you? We'll use those words, that transitioned you from the acting to what came next.
So it's really actually funny. Even when I was an actor, supposing I went to Ananda in the Himalayas
Mhm.
and I told you to meet me for lunch at 1 o'clock.
Mm.
If you were 5 minutes late, I would have 15 or 20 people around me, and you would not find a place to sit.
Yeah.
I would be talking about Ayurveda. I would be talking about whatever I know about my life. People would ask me questions, I would answer. And I'm talking about 25 years ago, 20 years ago, much before I became a teacher. So I guess that was always within me to want to share from my experiences, not for any other reason except to help people understand their life, their health better.
Mhm.
And then when I discovered Kundalini Yoga, I did my first class, it just felt like I had found my way back home.
Yes.
It just felt like after my first session itself, when I got up, I felt I had shed 4 kilos of physical weight, you know.
Mhm.
And I didn't do my teacher's training course to become a teacher at all. No. I did it so that I could spend 26 days with this wonderful science. That's the reason why I did it. And yet, when I finished and somebody invited me to teach one class in Andheri, this is quite close to where we are, I just knew that is what I had to do for the rest of my life.
Mhm. It's amazing how you describe that, because so many people that I've talked to, and in different cultures, different places, we call it different things. So we call it healers, we call people that are enlightened or towards enlightenment, we call people that are our coaches, our mentors, but they all describe it the same way. And one very key part that you actually just talked about, which is you were already doing it, helping people, leading people towards their own well being and their own health. You were already doing it, but you actually educated yourself in it because you wanted the experience for yourself. And then you became an official, if you will, teacher, which is exactly, I just had this conversation about how my own journey to get into coaching and mentorship was the same way. It was always something that I felt pulled and drawn by, that I was doing, but then I felt really pulled and drawn by it, and then you become it. It's a very interesting journey. It's always with self first, right? It's always the self first. So, but when you went through this journey, did you get any feedback from those people in your life? I mean, you understood it because this was always your journey, right? You said you were helping people. Now you're officially helping people, if you will, because you went through the process of educating yourself on it. But how were people's responses to that? Because in this country or anywhere really, you're an actor and you're a very successful actor and you're famous and all these things. It's not that you decided to leave that, you just evolved into a different part. But other people don't necessarily see it that way. So, how was people's response to that for you?
The ones who knew me from before personally, for them it was a drastic change because now they see me smoke 2 packets of cigarettes a day. They've seen me party till 6 o'clock, 5 days a week.
Hmm.
They've seen me play poker 5 days a week. And they've seen me do all kinds of crazy shit.
Yes.
And for them, it was like unbelievable.
Mm.
I think a lot of them are still in shock.
Yes.
Yeah, but the ones who don't know me, when I was presented for the first time as a teacher, they accepted me as a teacher immediately. I've never had any resistance. Like probably one of the most hard countries to break into, for example, would be Finland.
Mm.
And all the Scandinavia. But when I went to teach there, I remember like for the first 20 minutes, I was sitting in front of a brick wall because they don't want to trust you.
Mm.
They think there's one more Indian guru who's come, even if you don't call yourself a guru, I never do.
Mm.
And so they just think in their mind, one more Indian guru who's come who wants, to become famous. So, they don't realize I'm already, if I want to be more famous, I'll act more.
Mm.
I won't spend my time teaching,
Yes. Right.
but they're sitting in front of you, not wanting to trust you. They
Resist.
don't want to. And for the first 20 minutes, that won't happen. And then slowly you drill a hole and slowly you say something and they blink at you and they smile. And then by the time you finished with the first session itself,
Yeah.
they are hugging you and they're crying and they love you and then that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's basically about your own authenticity. If you are authentic, you actually genuinely don't care what they think of you. And then you talk the way you want to talk. You say what you want to say. You never care about what people believe about you or think about you or
Yes.
opine about you. It really doesn't matter.
And that is so, everybody's watching. Here's another success decoded. Authenticity is so liberating. It's so freeing because you don't go through exactly what you said. You don't go through any of that process anymore. It's not that you don't worry. The people you care about, you still care and you still feel for them, but you know who you are, what you're doing, where it's coming from, and the energy that you're putting out. Because authenticity, as we've talked about before in this program, authenticity vibrates at such a high frequency. Everyone feels it, right? And so you can, even if people are resisting you consciously, you can't resist that frequency. You can't resist that frequency. So people are totally drawn to it because it's your authentic self. So there's nothing better than your authentic self for your own success, your personal success, your professional success, for your everyday success. As a being, authenticity is like number one. So people felt it.
When I finished my Kundalini Yoga, normally it would take you about 10, 15 years before you can teach a KRI class. KRI is very strict. In my case, for some reason, I was invited to give a workshop 1 year after I finished my course. And I went in front of this group of 200 students who were there for the teacher's training course. And Guru Shabbat said, my teacher said, you teach whatever subject you want to talk on. And guess what subject I chose to speak on? Authenticity.
Yeah.
I said, you want to be teachers. I just want to tell you one thing, and I did this for 1.5 hours. This whole workshop that I did was about the authentic self. I said, don't ever, ever make the mistake of going up on the stage or going up onto any platform offered to you to teach to try to impress anyone.
Yeah.
Never do that, because the minute you do it, people know. Whoever's watching, they know this is a sucker. He just wants you just want your adulation. He just wants just be yourself. And if you're worthy, if you have that metal in you, if you have that power inside, if you have that good aura, that luminosity about your own magnetic field,
Yes.
people will love you automatically anyway. But if you try, you will lose them.
It's finished. It's finished. Absolutely. Will you tell us a little bit about, so it's Kundalini Yoga, is that correct? Am I pronouncing that correctly? Probably not, but let's just get close. Can you tell us a little bit about this practice of yoga, if you will? Tell us about it, please.
I'll explain it to you with a story. I was at a yoga festival and there were about 3,000 people maybe. But there was a group of 300 people, all wearing white clothes and shining skin, glowing, beautiful eyes. The men were good looking, the women were good looking. Even if they were 70 years old, even then they were good looking. Everybody was good looking. But I was an Iyengar yoga student. I was not interested in Kundalini yoga and hocus pocus. I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to know what it was. But there's something called curiosity, which is very normal, especially for somebody like me. A lot of my people say, are you sure you're 55? You behave like a child sometimes, and I
Yeah.
do. I love it,
Yeah, me too.
and I don't want to
Yeah,
grow
I
up.
love
I
curiosity.
don't want to grow up. I'm
Yeah,
fine.
me neither.
This curiosity inside me, the child inside me.
Yeah.
One day I couldn't control myself. I went up to one really good-looking girl, and I said, "Excuse me, I want to ask you a question." She said, "Yes." I said, "Do they audition you before they take you in Kundalini yoga?"
Start screaming
She was
across.
very baffled. She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Do they look at your picture and say, okay, you're ugly? No, thank you. And, oh, you're good looking. Yeah, come. You're good looking. Okay, you can come." She started laughing. She said, why are you asking that?"
It's kind of
I said,
a
"All 300 of you are good looking.
yeah, it's
How is
just
that even possible?"
yeah.
She said, "Why didn't you try it?"
Hmm.
I said, "No, I am very happy with Iyengar yoga. I'm not interested." But then the curiosity, the child inside me got the better of me, and I went for one session, and it was a 1.5 hour session. I cried for 1.5 hours.
Mm.
Not that I was sad, not that I was depressed, not that I was upset about anything. I just felt so beautiful.
Mm.
I just felt so, I just released.
Yes.
And I just cried and I cried and I cried. And then as soon as I came out, I met a friend of mine. He said, "Shit, what happened to you?" I got really scared. I said, "What happened to me?" He said, "Look at your face. Your skin is glowing."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because
And
you
that's the
released
day
it.
I realized that when you cry, you detoxify your system.
Yeah,
You
that's the word.
detoxify your pain. You take it out, you release it,
Mm.
and you liberate yourself. And I said, why would I not want to do this more and more and more and more?
Yes.
That's why, like I said earlier, I signed up for the 26-day teachers training course. Not because I wanted to be a teacher, because I wanted to cry more.
Yes.
And cry I did.
Yes.
Every day, 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, I don't know how long. Because we had sessions throughout the day, starting at 4:30 in the morning.
Mhm.
I cried throughout the day. And when I came out, my best friends couldn't recognize me.
That's wonderful. Oh, that is wonderful. So after you discovered this, after this release, this crying and then teaching, what changed first? Your thoughts, your energy, the way you looked evidently really changed, or your perspective in life itself, or maybe everything?
I think the way I look changed first. Because the perspective I had toward life, by and large, I've been consistent with that before and after. Because also, I think I was very lucky. I have to tell you one thing. I'm a big believer of the philosophy espoused by Osho. And to my good fortune, I stumbled upon 4 cassettes. In those days, there was no CDs. And, when I was a child, when I was 12 or 14 years old, I found 4 of his cassettes. One was called Love, one was called Death, one was called Compassion, one was called Gratitude. And I don't know why, but I would love listening to them over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. And somehow that kind of formed the core of my very existence. I became that, you know. So coming from that space, I am what I'm now, thankfully, because of that philosophy that I got from Osho, and I became that. Coming from that space of that philosophy which was ingrained in me from childhood, my philosophy was consistent. I still am a huge believer of whatever Osho has taught. In fact, if you look at what Alan Watts has to say, what Guru Ramdas has to say, what Swami Sarvapriyananda has to say, what Swami Dayanand Saraswati has to say, it's all the same. There is no inconsistency. And I have never, ever disagreed with a single word which has been preached by any of these teachers, except one, which I will tell you now. Except one. Osho says, marriage is a stupid thing. He says, don't get married. People should not get married. That's the only thing I disagree with. Because if you have a good aura yourself, if you are a good soul, and you find yourself a good soul, a good life partner, I think from my own personal experience, I think it's the best thing that can happen to you. All the people that you see who are 90 years old, 95 years old, happy, and they've all had great marriages. They've all had great spouses. So that's the only one thing I don't agree about with Osho.
Okay. Very good. So I think in that case, what changed for you is everything and all of the above when it came to when you found this. I guess your philosophy met your practice. Okay, so I love how you describe enlightenment as heaven on earth, which is fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. No, I do. I agree with you in the point that this heaven hell concept is what you're experiencing and living now. So I could not agree with you more on that one. Okay, when you began teaching and leading retreats all across continents, not just India, all over the world, was there one common emotional wound that you saw in people everywhere?
Pain, so much pain everywhere. I mean, you see, the thing is, we have this tripod on which we put a camera and it records my whole session. And we make short reels out of it. For the camera, which doesn't go off ever, you will see that in every session I cry. The only reason why my students don't see it is that I tell them, okay, now for this kriya, everybody close your eyes and you put your hand out in this mudra and you say this mantra. And then I start crying. So my students, some of them do, and it really doesn't matter to me, but I'm just saying that. And I cry in almost every session because when I'm teaching that, I see so much pain in front of me. And it's so sad because there are some beautiful souls that are in pain. And it is for the sake of those souls that people like me dedicate our whole life to teaching, to save those souls, because it's just a lack of direction. It's just the upbringing which was wrong. The parents, the society, the friends, the peers, the education system telling you that you have to succeed in life, you have to be wealthy in life, you have to be famous in life, you have to do well in life, and you live your whole life in such a wretched format, trying to conform to society, trying to conform to what is expected out of you. I lived my whole life without a parachute. I never gave a rat's ass about what society expected out of me. I said what I wanted to say, I did what I wanted to do. In fact, at the peak of my acting career, when I gave a movie called Pyar To Hona Tha, which was a hit, silver jubilee, 25 weeks it ran in the theaters, house full, I gave up acting. For 16 years, the whole world thought I was mad. Because they say, you work for 20 years, you become an actor, you second film, Pyar To Hona Tha, it becomes a hit, you have 20 films offered to you, and you walk away. Are you stupid? Yes, I'm stupid. I don't want to act. I followed my intuition. I never did what was expected of me, what is the right thing to do. I did what I wanted to do. And that's what I'll tell everybody. In fact, even people who are watching this, do what your heart tells you to do. Follow your heart. It's always right. It's always trying to take you towards the light.
I think, yeah, your intuition, your heart, your being, and also I think this is us as mentors or as coaches or as healers or whatever people like to call it. It's for allowing people to either peel away that which is preventing them from actually doing exactly that, which is trusting, believing, seeing, and loving the self enough so that they're able to do this. Because naturally we would do this as human beings, but there have been so many different layers that have put up either by ourselves or by society or whatever else. Exactly what you said. You need to have wealth, you need to do this, needs to look this way, it needs to feel this way, I need to be this way, versus just being, right? So as at least from my perspective, from the emotional standpoint, is I try to give it so in a way in which there's information so that they're able to take it and then peel all those different parts away so that they can just be as they are, which is wholly enough as it is.
But you know the key for that?
So sorry. Do I know what the truth?
There is a key.
Please, there's a key. Please tell us.
Unlock that power.
Yes.
It's honesty.
Yes.
To have that divine intuition, that intuition which is so correct all the time, so powerful, and it's so driving your whole engine of your life in such a beautiful way. If you are not honest, let's say you are 98% honest, it's not going to work. It's 100% honesty. If you live your life with the highest level of integrity possible, if you don't cheat anyone, you don't hurt anyone, you don't lie, you have good karma, and you combine that with good karma. That honesty combined with good karma, it gives you the power of intuition which is close to divinity. You can never make a wrong decision.
Yes, very true. Great. This is another great way to decode success. Okay, so you've often talked about the matrix, which is an illusion of that society keeps us attached to. So this image, this control, this validation, which we've been talking about. So for someone that's listening today that's actually caught in that matrix, for the majority of people that are caught in that matrix, what's the first step towards breaking free? Is it this honesty part that you were speaking about? Is it something else? What is it?
I call it the first stage of enlightenment. So, first of all, to really understand the matrix, let me put one more word juxtaposed with that. It's Maya. The Indians call it Maya, the illusion. So, when you are living inside of the matrix, there's a story by Socrates, the philosophy of Socrates, in which he talks about Plato's cave. That's my favorite story. I love that story. And in that story, there's all of humanity facing a wall inside a dark cave. And there is a light behind. And every time they're moving, they're seeing the shadows moving in front of them, and they're really happy. They're entertained with those shadows, entertained with that illusion of reality. And suddenly, one enlightened man, with a long beard and beautiful eyes, and genuinely like looks like a divine, enlightened soul, he walks into the cave and he says, "Hey, you're making a mistake. This is not life. This is an illusion. This is the matrix. This is Maya. Come outside. If you see outside, there's light, there's sunshine, there's birds, beautiful birds, there's animals, there's rivers, there's mountains, there's fresh air." And everybody, looks at him and they smile and say, "No, thank you. We are fine over here." You see, that's the problem. We get so comfortable inside of this illusion that we believe to be the truth, the reality, and we create it for ourselves. And we don't realize that actually what we're doing is living inside a cage. And all we're doing our whole life is decorate that cage. So we'll buy a Bentley, Mulsanne, limited edition. We'll put it in the cage. Look, now I got a Bentley. And we'll buy the limited edition crocodile, Birkin, Hermes, and we say, "Oh, look, I put that," and you put it in your cage and you're so happy. You're not realizing it's a cage. For some people, it's a cage made of bronze. For some people, it's a cage made of gold, but it's still a cage. All you have to do is realize first that you are in a cage, you are trapped inside the matrix, you are living in a life of illusion, and just become aware of that. And the day you become aware of that, that itself is the first stage of enlightenment. You're already halfway there.
Self-awareness, absolutely. Knowing that you're in the cave, and then also the self-awareness bits. I mean, for me, is from a coach standpoint, everything all my clients, I always start with the self-awareness because you need it. So it's 70% of what we're trying to achieve. That's the starting point. So yes, this is the starting point is your awareness from the beginning that we are all in some kind of a cage of our own making. That's the worst part about it. It's our own making. So, or as Rumi says, "Why are you standing in there? The cage was wide open." Yeah. Why are you still in the cage? The door is wide open. Same thing. It's been around for thousands. Oh, in this case, hundreds of years, but even before then, Socrates, thousands of years been there. So, okay. So you have taught people from India to Europe and Latin America, despite the different languages and lifestyles, their emotional struggles remain the same. So this is that suffering, right? The human condition of suffering. Why do you think it's so consistent across all cultures, all religions, all people?
I think because there's nobody who's actually in a position of authority and power. There's no politician. And I don't believe in religion. So there's no religious head or no politician who has the power to communicate to so many mass people at the same time, who communicate to them, "You are fine now. You don't need to be something or somebody to be happy in life. Just go with the flow." What religion will tell you that if you believe in Jesus, you believe in God, you believe in Allah, you believe in Ram, then they will take you towards the path of peace and enlightenment and bliss. Nobody tells you that even if you don't believe in them, but if you're honest and if you have good karma, you will still go there. It's bad for business, right?
Right. I was
What's the
about to say
richest?
that. It's very
What's
bad
the
for
richest
business.
corporation in the world? Worth trillions of dollars. It's the Vatican, and the Vatican will tell you if you think of sex, it's a sin. But the number one institution in the world, the number one institution in the world with the maximum amount of pedophiles, sex abuse cases are the priests from inside the Vatican. What happened? These are the priests. The priest is telling you that to think of sex is a sin. You see, the thought, it's very easy. For somebody to control you, the trick is to make you feel guilty and then come running to them for salvation. So the reason why all of humanity is unhappy is because they are thinking something is wrong with them. I have seen, I was staying in Bandra, I was staying outside a church, Mount Mary Church. I have seen 500 students, like from the age of 5 to the age of 12, having a cross in their hand and walking in a straight line on the road. And all of them are saying, you know what? Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. Forgive me, Father, I have. You're a child. What are you doing to these children? So the making you feel that there is a lack within you. And then the worst thing now is Instagram, all these social media where you're looking at these women who, are so beautiful. You take out the makeup, dude, I've been a model my whole life. You take out the makeup and you look at them, they're not. So this illusion that is created about what life should be, what happiness should be, what beauty should be, that is destroying the fabric of our whole world. And to combine and to make matters worse is the lack of education we have about our diet and lifestyle. We make alcohol so normal. I go to a party today and I'm not drinking. People say, "Are you mad? Come on, have a drink." You become mad and you look stupid if you're not a drinking. What kind of a world are we living in? So the diet, the Coca-Cola, the fast food, the pizzas, the garbage, garbage, garbage. I've always said one thing. You put garbage here, you eat garbage, the mind becomes garbage. The mind becomes garbage, your aura becomes garbage. And the moment your aura becomes garbage, your life goes to shit. Right? So now your life is gone there because you started from here. The self-awareness that I talk about, when you're thinking sattvic, when you're eating sattvic, when you're thinking sattvic, when everything is pure, your aura starts shining luminous. Even if there's an evil person who wants to hurt you terribly, even if Satan himself wants to hurt you, he can touch you. That your life that you are experiencing right now is nothing else but a reflection of what is inside of you, of what you are. What you intrinsically are on the inside is what you experience on a daily basis on the outside. Is what, when you step out into the world, when you wake up in the morning, what is your life? What are you experiencing? You're experiencing nothing else except the ecosystem that exists within you. So once you improve this, you start sleeping on time. Most important. You sleep on time, you eat the right food, you do the 5 Tibetan rites, you do the pranayama, your whole life. And the other thing which I have to add for the sake of completing this whole thing is fasting. Like for example, today I'm fasting. Today is Ekadashi. I'm not eating anything the whole day except a few fruits. If you understand this concept of fasting, especially on the day of Ekadashi, which you can Google, um, it's miraculous what it does to your detoxification process, for your life itself, for your mind, for your positivity, for how optimistic you are about life. This combination of whatever I've just said, it's miraculous to say the least.
Wonderful. Those are wonderful rituals, those quotidiens, things to do every day. I couldn't agree more with it as well. Okay, now we're getting to the fun part. If this hasn't been fun thus far, it's the rapid fire. So I need you just to answer whatever comes to mind. Okay, so it's going to be, we have a lot actually for you.
Let me warn you, I'm terrible at this.
No. We're prepared. Okay, so 10 questions. We'll start with the first one. A morning ritual that instantly grounds you and one that you never skip.
Or the one which I just put my feet on the ground, I put my hand together, and I always begin my day by thanking Mother Earth, the divinity that she has, for this beautiful day, for this beautiful life, and for everything that I own, for everything that I have, all the relationships, everything material, immaterial. I begin my day without fail, wherever I'm in the world, every single day with this ritual.
Amazing. A quote or mantra that shaped your life philosophy.
You are nothing if not love.
Yes, thank you. What's something about fame that people completely misunderstand?
It's lonely at the top.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could go back to your 25-year-old self, what would you whisper in his ear?
Calm down.
Yeah, me too. One thing you struggle with emotionally, even after all this inner work.
Coming to terms with looking at people suffering and not getting affected by it. Like, I get very affected when I see people in pain. I wish um, I could control that about myself, but looking at um, people when I'm traveling, especially now in Europe, when I see all the refugees and the immigrants and the pain that they're living with, I just wish I could have some control over the way I react, because it's part of life itself and you can't help it.
What does success mean for you today versus what it meant 20 years ago?
It's really something you have to understand. But 20 years ago, it meant doing a handstand in the middle of a room. And my friends all laughed at me. They thought I was an idiot when I said that. They said, "How can that be termed a success?" I said, "You don't understand. It means equilibrium of the mind and the body." Today, my ambition for me, success would be if I could fast and be without food for a period of 21 days, sit in the same space, meditate without moving. For me, that is my ideal. That's my goal. That's my success story.
Okay, amazing. If you weren't a yoga teacher or artist, what do you think you'd be doing right now?
If I was not a yoga teacher or an actor,
Yes.
I would be doing what I'm doing right now already. I'm also an art dealer, a very
Right.
successful one at that.
Okay, fantastic. A movie or book that mirrors your own spiritual journey.
The Last Samurai.
That's a good one. The most emotionally intelligent person you've ever met and why?
Guru Shabad, my teacher. He is we just when we talk we just get swept away into a 3 hour 4 hour 5 hour conversation, and emotionally we are so connected about so many things, including fake gurus, and so many of them are so famous right now and they have millions of followers, and we both look at each other and when we're talking about these, some of these gurus who are like I said, even today have millions of followers, and we both are so sure. And now, after our discussions, one of them actually went to jail for being a rapist, and it's so obvious to us. But I'm really connected to Guru Shabad.
Amazing. What one word that captures where you are in your life right now, and one word for where you're headed next?
Contentment is where I'm right now. And the last stage of enlightenment, I define enlightenment in 5 stages. I'm heading towards the fifth stage of enlightenment. It's called moksha.
Okay. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for enlightening us, actually, and then also for as a coach, it's been wonderful too because I've learned so many different things. So thank you so much for being here. We're glad we finally got this together. So thank you, and I know that you've made a huge impact for our viewers as well.
It was my absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you for all your wonderful questions, Taylor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. BJ, this has been more than just a conversation. It's been a reminder that success isn't measured by noise, but by depth. You've shown us that peace is not something we chase, it's something we return to. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your calm, and for reminding us that when awareness meets compassion, that's where life truly begins to shine. Until next time, keep reflecting, keep growing, and most importantly, keep decoding success.